Don't worry, Jeb, even I can't screw this up. Thank you for coming to show your support for the next President of the United States, Jeb Bush. Speaking of presidents, welcome back, Mr. President and Laura. South Carolina has missed you, Mr. President. The country has missed you, Mr. President. This is Bush country, Mr. President. If somebody told me I had 8 years to live, I'd want it to be under the Obama presidency because it seems to last forever. One more year, and this guy's going. Mr. President, thank you for coming back to South Carolina where you are truly loved and appreciated. Thank you for keeping us safe while you were President of the United States. Thank you for your leadership after 9/11. Thank you for taking the fight to the enemies of this nation. Thank you for having the back of those who are doing the fighting, Mr. President. Thank you for being a decent and honorable man, Mr. President. Now, all of us are going to get the vote Saturday, right? If you show up Tuesday, you'll be by yourself. February the 20th, Saturday. The whole world's watching what we do here in South Carolina for a reason, because we pick presidents here in South Carolina. Everybody who goes to vote Saturday needs to understand one thing. The military is going to be stuck with the choice of the American voter. The only way you become commander-in-chief is to be elected by your fellow citizens. Please think about those who are doing this fighting when you vote. We're a nation at war, and we're going to elect a president who will be a wartime president. We need to elect somebody who's got a steady hand, that can be trusted, that's got the right temperament, that will have the back of those who are doing the fighting, and will be a commander-in-chief worthy of those who have sacrificed so much. And in my opinion, that is Jeb Bush without any doubt. Some people ask me, I was honored to run for president. If you wanted to take money out of politics, you should have joined my campaign. Because we ran out of money. But when my time was up, I decided to stay in the fight because it means so much. The chief reason I ran was to start a discussion about how to defend this nation and turn around a foreign policy that's in free-for-all, to get the Republican Party back to its roots as being a party of a strong national defense. I've been to Iraq and Afghanistan 36 times. It is a long way over there. And thanks to those who go over and do the fighting. I've been in the Air Force for 33 years. I retired this June. 140 days on the ground as an Air Force reservist. I have learned a lot about this war. When it came time for me to choose, when I got out, Jeb was the easiest choice I've ever made. 40 generals and admirals supporting his campaign. 12 Medal of Honor recipients supporting his campaign. The commander of the South Carolina National Guard, Bob Livingston, Major General Livingston, who commanded troops in combat, are supporting Jeb's campaign. There's a theme here. Those of us who've taken time to understand this war know that Jeb can win this war. He has a plan that I trust will lead us to victory. But tonight, you're going to hear from somebody who knows what it's like to be a wartime president, who has been commander-in-chief in tough times. Tonight you're going to hear from a man that I admire greatly, because when the going really got tough, he hunkered down. He never followed the polls. He followed sound military advice. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight you're going to hear not only from a president of the United States who understands what it's like for a nation to be at war, you're going to hear from the brother of the next president of the United States. I don't know about you, but I like Bushes. Bush values or South Carolina values. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, George W. Bush.
Thank you all. Thank you. Sit down unless you don't have a seat. Laura and I are thrilled to be here. I want to thank Senator Graham for his friendship, for his leadership. Lindsey loves South Carolina, and he loves our country, and we are fortunate that you send him up to the United States Senate. I want to thank the Singing Ag Commissioner. That guy's got a heck of a voice. If they ever have a contest about who can sing the best amongst the ag commissioners across America, you win. Mark Sanford's here. I appreciate Mark coming. Thank you very much for being here, Mark. There's a lot of famous people here. I got to bring up my friend David Wilkins. He's from Greenville. David was our ambassador to Canada, former Speaker of the House, and a dear friend of Laura and mine, and we want to thank you, David, for coming down to being with us. Thank you very much. There are people from the House and the Senate and state government here. Thank you all for coming, and appreciate you helping brother. I want to thank all the grassroots activists who've come. Thank you for taking time out of your day. Thank you for your interest in the political process. Thank you for your hard work for Jeb. Thank you for what you're going to do, which is to vote for him on Saturday here in the great state of South Carolina. I'm really happy to be back in this great state. I've got a lot of fond memories. I walked in the okra strut in Irmo. I was pleased they didn't make me dress as an okra stalk. I fondly remember going to the 437th and the 315th Air Wings here in Charleston. Perhaps my most interesting memory came in Greenville. Before the 2000 primary, David and Susan and I and Laura went to Tommy's Country's Ham House. And we were eating breakfast. As a matter of fact, I was eating some bacon when I looked out the window and a PETA protester dressed as a pig pulled up in a dump truck. He unloaded a huge load of manure in the parking lot to try to prevent me from leaving. It was kind of a sign of things to come. But let me tell you something about the Ham House. Even a steaming pile of manure can't ruin their good bacon. I love the spirit of the people of South Carolina. I'm particularly touched by the way the community banded together to comfort the victims of last year's shooting at Mother Emanuel Church. And then protest against racism and hate. It's a strong signal to the United States of America. And I applaud your governor's response to that tragedy. And I applaud you for putting her in office. Laura and I spent time with Governor Haley and her family at the American Legion Post in Columbia this afternoon. Thank goodness our country welcomed her parents when they immigrated here in 1969. You know, since we left the White House, I've been kind of quiet in the public square. 8 years in the limelight was plenty. And Laura and I are really happy in what she has described as the afterlife. We're spending a lot of time on our ranch where we've become tree farmers. Gives me a chance to practice my stump speech. I've written 2 books, which has surprised a lot of people, particularly up east, who didn't think I could read, much less write. I've been one to defy expectations. I've been misunderestimated most of my life. And as a real shock to people, I've become an oil painter. But let me assure you, I know that the signature's worth more than the painting. I want to thanks to Brother for giving us something to do today, something important. I'm proud of his candidacy, and I'm really proud to have been invited. I came here for 2 reasons. 1, because I care deeply about Jeb, and 2, because I care deeply about our country. You know, I thought it was appropriate to discuss a subject I know a lot about, what it's like to be president. Being your president was a high privilege and the honor of a lifetime. And by the way, if serving as President of the United States makes me a part of the so-called establishment, I proudly carry that label. There seems to be a lot of name-calling going on, but I want to remind you what our good dad told me one time. Labels are for soup cans. The presidency is a serious job that requires sound judgment and good ideas. And there's no doubt in my mind that Jeb Bush has the experience and the character to be a great president. Here are some things I think people ought to look for in the next president. Starters, I think you ought to look to someone who's had executive experience, someone who knows how to run a large, complex organization, to lead people, and to make sound, crisp decisions. For example, someone who served 2 terms in a large southern state as its governor. I think you ought to look for someone who can handle intense pressure and won't wither during crises. I believe that strength can come from faith. It can come from the comfort of a higher power and the humility that comes in realizing the Almighty's gift of grace. That humility is important for politicians to remember when they talk about their faith. One of my favorite Bible verses for those in the political arena is from the book of Matthew. To paraphrase, how can you say, let me get that speck out of your eye when I've got a log in my own? Jeb's a man of humble, deep, and genuine faith. Faith that reveals itself through good works, not loud words. I think you should look for someone whose humility helps him understand what he doesn't know and surrounds himself with people who do know what he doesn't know. Jeb's plenty smart. Phi Beta Kappa from the great University of Texas. I know it's not South Carolina. Okay, Clemson. Let me tell you something. He's going to assemble a great team of people to whom he'll listen. He'll create a culture in which they can deliver not just the good news, but the bad. He'll listen carefully to their advice, and then he's got the backbone necessary to make the tough decisions on behalf of the American people. The presidency is often defined by the unexpected. There's going to be crises, and it's important to have a president who can handle them with calm resolve. When Americans woke up on September the 11th, we did not know that the world would forever change that day. I was sitting in a classroom in Florida, listening to a child read. My chief of staff, South Carolina graduate Andy Card, whispered in my ear, "A second plane has hit the second tower. America is under attack." My first reaction is, that's hot. We're going to deal with these people. My second reaction when I was staring at this young child is that my job became crystal clear, and that is to protect her, her community, and her country. On the way to Air Force One from that school, Condi called me and said a plane has hit the Pentagon. I felt the first one was an accident, the second was an attack, and the third one was a declaration of war. I became something that no president should ever want to be, a wartime president. And I made a lot of tough calls, every one of them with that child's image in my mind, to protect her and the country she's fortunate enough to call home. I've seen Jeb in action. He'll be a strong and steady hand when confronted with the unexpected. Multiple hurricanes hit Florida when I was president and he was governor. He led a robust, well-organized response that showed his compassion for those who hurt. He did this as governor of Florida, and he will do this as president of the United States. It is vital that you select a candidate who is thoughtful and trustworthy, someone who says what he means and does what he says. When the American president speaks, the world listens. You can trust Jeb Bush to be measured and thoughtful on the world stage. Our enemies and allies will know that when President Jeb Bush speaks, he will follow through on his words. I think you ought to look for a leader who's optimistic, with a vision for a brighter future, a person who can see beyond the horizon. When Jeb looks beyond the horizon, he sees a better tomorrow. He believes, and I believe, that America's best days are ahead of us, and that we're on the verge of the greatest time to be alive in human history. And with the right policies, and with a strong leader like Jeb Bush, we can get there. An optimistic future starts with making sure our economy grows so people can find good work. We need a president who will make the private sector, not public sector, a priority. Jeb has laid out an attainable goal, a clear and easy to understand goal, which is what a leader must do, and that is to have 4% economic growth a year. The cornerstone of his policy is to empower entrepreneurs and small business owners, the dreamers and doers who drive the American economy. He laid out a specific plan, a well thought out plan, a measured plan that he will put into action when you send him to the White House. Jeb understands that the most solemn job of the president is to protect us. So your most solemn job as voters is to elect a president who understands the reality of the threats we face and who knows how to deal with them. I've studied Jeb's plan to defeat ISIS. He relies upon the military and our intelligence community. He will take their sound advice, and he will implement that plan. The types of ISIS have been defeated in the past, and they can be defeated in the future, but we need a leader who knows how to do so. Jeb understands this, and it's important for the people of South Carolina to understand this, that America must lead, and that when America does not lead, chaos will reign. Laura and I loved our 8 years in Washington, but we really don't miss it too much. We miss our friends, but we don't miss power and fame. But here's really what I do miss. Thank you, but let me tell you what I miss. You know, it's an amazing country. I made it pretty clear we're going to defend ourselves after 9/11, and millions volunteered. And to be able to salute the brave men and women who wear our uniform was an honor of a lifetime. The highest honor of being president is to be the commander-in-chief of the greatest force for freedom ever. So I would look for a candidate who has genuine respect for the United States military, who will support them on the battlefield, and when they return home. Jeb has pledged to rebuild our armed forces and overhaul the VA. And I believe him when he says it, and I know he'll do it when he's the commander-in-chief of the United States. One of the most comforting aspects of the presidency was my family, starting with my loving wife, Laura. Living in the White House can be like living in a museum. I remember the time I went to visit Mother and Dad when they were there, and Mother said, "Get your feet off the Jeffersonian table." But Laura made the White House a home. She was the greatest First Lady ever. My little sister Daro's here, and she talks to Mom nearly every day, so don't tell her I said that. Jeb adores the love of his life, Columba. I'll never forget when we were both younger, living in Houston, Texas, and we'd go to the Astro games, and we'd sit out in the bleachers. I'd watch the game, and Jeb would write love letters to his future wife and our next First Lady, Columba Bush. They've raised wonderful children. Texas Land Commissioner George P. Noel and Jeb Jr. And like Laura and me, Jeb and Columba are grandparents. He's known as Gampy. I'm known as Jefe. For those of you who are not bilingual, that means the boss. Speaking of family, I think the voters should vote for the candidate who's got the most opinionated mother. I've always wondered whether our mother learned to be opinionated at Ashley Hall right here in Charleston. Finally, we need to nominate somebody who can win in November. All the sloganeering and all the talk doesn't matter if we don't win. We need someone who can take a positive message across the entire country, someone who can inspire and appeal to people from all walks of life, not just one party or one class of people. Jeb will listen to the voices of the disenfranchised. He will rise above the petty name-calling. And once elected, he will not need a poll or a focus group to tell him how to think or what to do. He will stand on principle. He will not waver in the wind. And he'll always do what's right for American people. Now, I know campaigns are stressful and they're taxing, but they should be, because the job of the president is much harder than the campaign. These are tough times. And I understand that Americans are angry and frustrated. But we do not need someone in the Oval Office who mirrors and inflames our anger and frustration. We need someone who can fix the problems that cause our anger and frustration, and that's Jeb Bush. Seems like Americans are yearning for a strong leader. I'd like to remind you and the voters what true strength means. Strength means facing challenges and prevailing. It means sacrificing and enduring and emerging a better and bigger person. It means having a set of core principles, beliefs that are true on the campaign trail and will be still true in office. Strength is not empty rhetoric. It is not bluster. It is not theatrics. Real strength, strength of purpose, comes from integrity and character. And in my experience, the strongest person usually isn't the loudest one in the room. I've seen in my brother a quiet conviction and a core of conscience that cannot be shaken. And my hope is that the people of South Carolina will see this as well. This is a serious election for a serious job. So please welcome a serious and thoughtful candidate, a good man, a man I am proud to call my big little brother, Jeb Bush. My big little brother, Jeb Bush.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Mr. President. Laura, it's such a joy to have you here. Thank you all for coming. It's such a joy to have you all here. To my friend Lindsey Graham, thank you for your friendship, your advice, and your support. I'm going to be here for 6 days. We're trying to improve the economy of a good economy in South Carolina. We're going to spend as much money as we can, meet as many people as we can. Saturday is going to be a surprise because you all are going to go out and get 10 other people to do the same thing, to vote for Jeb Bush for president. I'm so honored that my brother's here, because this is a dangerous time. The world has been turned asunder. The day that Barack Obama was inaugurated, we were safer, we were stronger, we were freer. Today, for all sorts of reasons, that's not the case. This election is who's going to be the steady hand to keep us safe? Who's going to deal with the national security challenges that we face? Who's going to focus on the economic security challenges that a majority of Americans now feel? We're living in difficult times, and this election is really important. And I look back during my brother's time. He didn't know that 9/11 was going to happen, but he rolled up his sleeves and he inspired us and he kept us safe, and I'm proud that he did it. I don't know if y'all watched the debate on Saturday. Did you get that chance to see it? Wow, it was kind of weird, parts of it. I never thought in a Republican debate we would be talking about impeaching a Republican two-term president who is extraordinarily popular for good reason amongst Republicans. I thought that was a little weird. I thought it was a little strange that a front-running candidate would attack the President of the United States who did keep us safe. While he was building a reality TV show, I'm sure it was a fantastic one, I've never seen it. I'm sure it was great. George Bush brought together a team to build the security apparatus that to this day is one of the reasons why we haven't been attacked more often than we have. I'm proud of him, and I know you are as well. Some of the dialogue back and forth made me wonder. I closed my eyes and I thought it was Michael Moore on the stage. Any case, this is not about the front-running candidate. This is about how we can restore our country's greatness, to restore economic and national security, and that is why I'm a candidate for president. Here's the reality. Here's the reality. We need a president that will respect the armed forces. A month and a half ago, 2 months ago, I had a chance to speak at the Citadel. What an extraordinary university that is. I thought you guys would be out there. And before I did it, I had a little PT work with the Summerall Guards at 6 a.m. Sorry. 25 push-ups, 25 sit-ups, calisthenics. I think they were taking the old guy to see how long he could last. I thought we were finished, and then we ran 3 miles. Then we finally finished, and they circled around and they started asking me questions. Will you have our back? Will you be a commander-in-chief that respects the military? Are you going to impose conditions on the military, making it harder for them to do their jobs? Are you going to eliminate the sequester? These were all really good questions, and here's the answer. I will have the back of the military. I will be a commander-in-chief that respects the armed forces. We will eliminate the sequester, rebuild our military, and make sure and build again a bipartisan consensus that peace through strength is the proper foreign policy for this country. When we're weak, it creates voids, and those voids are filled by asymmetric threats of terror and nation states on the run. For us to be strong and safe, we have to rebuild the military. It is the first priority. There are candidates on our side that don't believe it's important. I do. And we need a plan to deal with the threat of our time. In August, I went to the Reagan Library to talk about how we needed to engage with ISIS, how we needed to destroy this threat. You know who I called? I called a lot of people because, to George's point, I know what I don't know. I don't have it all figured out. That's the sign of a good leader, by the way. The best time is when you learn. You don't learn when you're just talking. You learn when you listen. In fact, we need a president that will listen a lot more, learn, and then lead. That's what we need. And in August, I called one of the candidates running for president, someone who I've always admired, the leading national security expert in the United States Senate. I called your Senator, Lindsey Graham, and sought out his advice. And he gave it to me to show you what kind of patriot it was. I don't know if I'd called any other candidate, they would have done it, but he did. And I'm proud of our relationship because we agree we must destroy ISIS. We have to destroy ISIS, and the way to do it is to create a strategy where you engage with the Sunni Arab countries, you engage with Europe, you have boots on the ground with special operators in Syria, you reestablish the ties with the Sunni tribal leaders, you arm the Kurds directly, and you get the lawyers off the backs of the warfighters to win this war. Leadership is not about talking about it. It's not. Leadership is when you're tested. Do you have the skills to build consensus, to make tough decisions, to move forward, to make sure that you solve problems? Governors have that opportunity. George was a successful governor in Texas for 6 years. Ronald Reagan was a pretty successful governor and president, 8 years in both spots. One of the candidates says, I don't have foreign policy experience. I'll tell you what I do have. I have experience to make tough decisions. I have experience to lead a state, the largest swing state in this country, to a better place. When I was governor, we had 8 hurricanes and 4 tropical storms in 16 months. $150 billion of property losses. At one point, we did not have a commercial property insurance market. It was gone. And if you don't have insurance, you can't get a loan to expand your business. People were struggling. If you lost power for 3 weeks, you didn't have food. People were moving out of the state for fear of being able to keep a job. We led. Did you ever hear anybody complain when I was governor about FEMA? I accepted personal responsibility, and we need a president today that runs to the challenge rather than cuts and run. And that's what governors learn how to do. I got to be governor at a time where I disrupted the old order of things on behalf of my state. In Florida, I vetoed 2,500 separate line items in the budget for $2 billion cuts in the budget. They called me Veto Corleone, which was supposed to be an insult. I took it as a term of endearment and ran with it. We need Veto Corleone to go to Washington, D.C. to be able to bring budget discipline. In Florida, we had 8 balanced budgets. When I ended, we had $9 billion of reserves, roughly 35 to 40% of general revenue. That is cutting and making sure that government lives within our means. We need that kind of approach of balanced budget amendment and making sure that we move towards a balanced budget in Washington, D.C. for our children and grandchildren. I know how to do it. In Florida, we eliminated lifetime career civil service protections. The great workers that work in government don't need it. They don't need it at all. The ones that do need it are the ones that shouldn't be there. And in Florida, we reduced the government workforce by 11%, but we led the nation 7 out of 8 years in job growth. 1.3 million jobs were created during my time. Don't you want that for Washington, D.C. as well? And the first place that I would take that skill is the Department of Veterans Affairs. You all have seen the atrocious waiting list that veterans coming home don't get care. Last year, the department came up with a brilliant idea. We'll give out bonuses. $142 million of bonuses last year went out for all sorts of things, including reducing the waiting lists, which sounds like a worthy objective. The simple fact was that waiting lists were reduced, veterans didn't get care, and vets died. They died. And the simple fact is only 3 people have been fired. Heads will roll in the Department of Veterans Affairs when I'm President of the United States. We will give veterans expanded choices where they can go to their private provider or a private clinic or a local hospital. The best way to assure the department does a better job is to make sure veterans have other choices. It works in schools, it works across the board. Giving people choices makes everybody better. And we desperately need this to honor the dedicated service of men and women in uniform that come home and deserve to be in the front of the line, not the back of the line. Here's the challenge. Everybody's got a lot of ideas, but on that stage on Saturday, who's done it? Who's done it? A lot of big talkers, a lot of turns of the phrase for sure, but who's actually rolled up their sleeves and taken the hits? I don't see if you see the scar. This is the one where we created the first voucher program in the country, the second voucher program, and the third statewide voucher program. These aren't easy things to do. I didn't cut and run. I did what I thought was right. And Florida now has the greatest gains in learning because we disrupted our public education system in the right way, empowering people to make choices for themselves. Who's done it? Who's created the environment to make sure that we can grow our economy at a faster rate? I believe I have those skills because past is prologue. We cannot entrust for the next President of the United States with the great challenges we face someone who's not been tested. There will be a challenge. It could be a pandemic. It could be a huge natural disaster. It could be an attack on this country. And the question is, who do you want to have to sit behind the big desk? Who do you want to have to be able to lead us through difficult times? The next president will be challenged. And I believe I have those skills to work on behalf of everybody to make sure that we have a better future for ourselves. Let me conclude with this. I believe that life is a gift from God, that it is divinely inspired, that we're here for a purpose. We're all here for a purpose. And if we all reach our God-given abilities, nothing will stop the United States of America. We will lead the world for the next 2 generations of time, not because of our government, but because the American people are really extraordinary and exceptional. We still are. I'm sick and tired of politicians that divide us up in our disparate parts, that believe that somehow the end is near, when in fact, all we have to do is fix a few really big complex things, which requires leadership, and we'll take off as a nation. We'll be safe and secure, and we'll have rising income. A year ago, I met a young woman, African-American, 25-year-old from Jacksonville, Florida, named Denisha Merriweather. Denisha had a difficult life starting out in life. She lived in poverty. She had a challenged family. She was held back 2 years in a row in 3rd grade, one of which was my doing because we eliminated social promotion in 3rd grade when I was governor. There's a gate in Florida. If you can't read by the end of 3rd grade, you don't go to 4th grade. We're not as worried about the self-esteem of little Johnny. We're worried about whether Johnny can read. So this little girl had to have been angry. She had to have been quite angry, I'm sure. She was held back. Her godmother thankfully found out about the Florida Corporate Tax Scholarship Program, the largest voucher program in the country. Today, 80,000 low-income kids go to private schools because I took on really, really powerful interests, and we won. Denisha got to go to a Christian school. And I know for a fact what happened that first week. It had to have been. A teacher put her arm around that child and said, "I love you. You're capable. You can do this. Jesus loves you. We can do this together." And guess what? She overcame those 2 years that she was held back. She graduated from high school. She was the first in her family to graduate from college, and now Denisha Merriweather is getting a master's degree at the University of Central Florida. If you believe like I do, that everybody has an ability to make a contribution, that if everybody reaches their God-given abilities, this country will take off. We won't be as gloomy. Millennials will believe that the American dream is alive. People will take risks again on behalf of their own dreams. We'll lessen the demands on government. We'll get back to the business of creating high sustained economic growth where everybody can benefit. That's the mission. We cannot allow politicians to divide us up in our disparate parts anymore. We need a president with a steady hand that runs to the challenge, that believes in the greatness of this country, that believes that if we set a set of common purposes, one of which is that everybody should have the chance to rise up, nothing will stop the United States of America. I believe that in my heart. And if you believe it, if you're tired of the politics of division, if you want someone with a proven record, a solid conservative who acted on his conservative beliefs each and every day as governor, someone with 32 years of private sector experience, then you're looking at the nominee for the Republican nomination, and I can beat Hillary Clinton. I can promise you that. The only way a Republican and a conservative wins is by campaigning with their arms wide open, with a hopeful, optimistic message, campaigning in every nook and cranny of this country, making sure that everybody knows that we want them on our team. The only way we win is to do what Republicans, when they win, always do. Campaign like George W. did, campaign like Ronald Reagan did. We have to get back to that, and when we do, we'll win and we'll restore America's greatness in a way that will sustain it for the next 2 generations. I ask for your support next Saturday. I ask for your prayers for our family. God bless you all. Thank you very much for coming.